Hey everyone, this is Ted. Thanks for checking out this video on the late great Vernel Fournier, one of my favorite drummers and somebody that I was fortunate enough to have one afternoon with, a lesson that was set up by a dear friend of mine named Highland Harris, and you'll hear his name mentioned by Vernel in the video. He had been taking some lessons in New York City, and he invited me and another friend who you'll hear on the tape as well. So it was the three of us who went down from Boston at the time to New York City and take a lesson with Vernel. It's the first time I met him, the last time I met him or ever saw him. So it's not like that we were buddies or we hung out or I was a student of his or anything. No, I just had this one experience with him in person. And now about 30 some years later, I'm sharing it with you. And before you listen to those tapes, I wanted to give you a little heads up on what you're going to hear, because it can be a little bit confusing if you don't have a little bit of a caveat, which is that the tapes were sonically in pretty bad shape because, number one, there was a lot of tape hiss, and they were pretty old. And number two, we were doing this in a music rehearsal space in Manhattan, and you're going to hear there's a rock ska / punk band playing next door. It leaks through. So the other thing about the tape is that because of the drums and our discussion, a lot of the conversation levels down here, and then as soon as the drums are played, it goes all the way up here, the dynamic range. So it took me a few decades to get up the energy to throw that into the audio editor and do what needed to be done in order for it to be listenable to somebody who wasn't there. And that's what I finally done thanks to COVID. And now you can enjoy it too. This is really the only copy of this master class with a master. And it was really a gift from Vernel. So that's why I'm kind of regifting it, because although I had brought money and we was prepared to split the lesson, which was intended to be an hour lesson, it went nearly 3 hours. And when we ended, Vernel did not even charge us for the lesson itself. He just asked us to pay for the rehearsal space, which was a complete shock. And, I almost just didn't want to accept it. But he talked about being a Mason and that he felt like, that was what he wanted to do. So we accepted his gift. So now, I'm regifting. Thanks to Vernel, thanks to Highland. So I was about 20 years old at this time, and I had a few years before discovered the Maillard Trio through hearing Poinciana and But Not For Me at the Pershing Lounge. And the arrangements and the cohesiveness and the oneness of that trio just knocked me out in the dynamic range, where they would go just from one little tinkly piano note to boom, 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 to this explosion and the whole range like Beethoven, and the intros and the endings of their songs, and the arrangements of things that were going into 3/4 and 3/4 on the bridge, and sort of the way they approached Latin. Everything just knocked me out. And it was the same thing for my friends Dave and Highland, who were at the lesson with me. You're going to hear people coughing a lot. It was commonplace for people to still be smoking indoors, and Vernel was smoking. There was always an ashtray in a rehearsal space. Somebody was always smoking. There's no ventilation. So it was a different time. Again, cassette tapes, cigarettes, and no cell phones, no YouTube. So, in a way, I'm kind of lucky that this tape made it through all my moves and floods and all sorts of things. A couple lessons that I learned from meeting with Vernel on top of everything that's on these tapes. Number one is a lesson that I learned from, up to that point, I had also learned from seeing Max Roach and Billy Higgins. And that was when we got to the rehearsal space. The drum set was not like it was not a nice bebop kit like my Gretsch kit here. It was a big rock kit with a 22-inch bass drum and power toms, a big heavy A Zildjian ride cymbal. So it was just really not set up for jazz. And to me at that time, I thought, well, But when I heard Vernel, he went to go play the cymbal and he had a timpani mallet, and he started to play with the butt end of the stick. Well, he was about to, and one of us tried to hand him a stick to say, here you go, so you can play with the tip. Let's try this cymbal. He said, no, I don't need that. He started playing with the butt end of the timpani mallet, and it sounded golden. And it sounded like Vernel Fournier, and that taught me again, like, sound is not so much something that's outside of us, but it's something that develops and grows internally as a musician and then is brought from the inside out. So wherever he goes, he's going to sound like Vernel Fournier, or he did. Wherever Elvin Jones went, whatever kit he played in, he sounded like Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, Max Roach. So that was another lesson for me, to not get hung up on gear and getting this and getting that cymbal and everything. That these guys could play on a metal chair and a phone book and really sound good. The other thing was that I knew going into it, a career in music, quote unquote, was not going to be easy. I knew that a lot of people struggled, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do anyway, because I loved music to that point, and some other personal reasons. And I knew that when we went down there that Vernel was teaching, he was doing some playing, but he was also driving a limo. And I know that he wouldn't have been able to survive if he didn't drive a limo. So here I am thinking, one of my top favorite drummers, along with Max and Ed Blackwell and Billy Higgins and, on and on and on, Roy Haynes, Alan Dawson, Vernel Fournier. I studied his playing and everything so much, and here he is, been driving a cab and now a limo to make a living. So it was discouraging, to know that, but I knew that that's the life that I was heading into, and the love that he showed us and the love that he had for music and the passion for the drums, that's really all that needed to be said. So it has been a difficult career, so to speak, but everything he says in this lesson about life, is true. And if you have music, as you go along in life and you suffer hardship, that music becomes more and more essential and important. And that's something I didn't know at that time, and I grew to learn, as he speaks about in the lesson. So yeah, he gave us this whole lesson essentially for free. And at the very end, you'll hear him say, well, I hope you learned something, fellas. And then you think we're done, and he says, oh no, Highland, about the book. Did you get to, because his book was coming out, was not out yet, I don't believe, at the time. But he wanted to make sure that Highland knew how to play some of these exercises in the book so that he could pass it along to us. That's how, giving he was. So there's the man right there. His spirit lives on, the music lives on. Ahmad is still with us. But Israel Crosby has long left this planet, and Vernel as well. But it's all about keeping the message alive and passing the knowledge along from generation to generation. So that's what I'm doing here with this lesson. I hope you enjoy it. It's going to take you some time to get through. If you have any questions, feel free to write me. Go ahead, click subscribe if you want to look forward to more of these types of releases from me. I have some other things in the archives that I'm going to be putting out real soon. Also, instructional videos just for myself, talking about and explaining my own concepts of drumming and music. So, in honor of Vernel, remember to serve the music, keep on grooving.